Have you ever heard of an African country quietly deploying its military, not to its own borders, not to a neighboring war, but to a tiny island in the Caribbean, right in the backyard of the United States? For decades, the pattern has been painfully predictable. Western troops fly into African skies. Western ships dock on African coasts. Western missions land in African capitals with intelligence teams, special forces, and advisors whose real work nobody fully sees. Africa is the place where others come to project power, collect information, and run operations in the shadows. But this time, the direction of power flipped. Ghana has just announced that it is sending a military unit across the Atlantic Ocean to Jamaica. Not mercenaries, not combat troops, military engineers. A specialized regiment of builders, masons, carpenters, and technicians, backed by a multi-million cedi humanitarian package, landing not as occupiers, but as helpers in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, one of the most brutal storms Jamaica has ever seen. On the surface, it looks simple. Hurricane strikes, the country suffers, and another country sends help. But once you look closely, questions rise. So why did Ghana's president order his military engineers to deploy to Jamaica? What exactly are they doing there? And in a region traditionally dominated by the United States, how is Washington reading this move? In this video, let's find out. The headline alone feels unreal. People read that Ghana is sending soldiers to Jamaica, and the mind instantly begins to search for hidden motives. It almost sounds like the beginning of a secret plot, or the start of a classified intelligence mission. Normally, when the international news mentions a military deployment, it is connected to conflict, tension, or hard power. For decades, the direction of these deployments has remained predictable. Soldiers and specialists travel from powerful states into Africa, the Middle East, or any other region considered fragile. Africa is usually the place where foreign soldiers arrive, not the place that sends its own military units across oceans. That long history is what makes this moment feel so intriguing. Yet the truth behind this deployment is completely different from what the word soldiers usually implies. Ghana is not sending combat forces with rifles or armored vehicles. Ghana is sending its 48th Engineer Regiment. This is a unit that wears military uniforms, but operates in a very different world. These are builders who have spent their careers learning how to reconstruct damaged environments and how to turn chaos into order. They are masons and carpenters and technicians and civil engineers who are trained to work in disaster zones and conflict zones. They build bridges where floods have torn landscapes apart. They set up shelters where homes have collapsed. They reconnect communities that have been cut off by landslides or destroyed by storms. Although they belong to the armed forces, the tools they carry are often far more important than the weapons they store. When Ghana tells the world that it is deploying the 48th Engineers Regiment to Jamaica, it is really announcing a reconstruction operation that uses the discipline and coordination of the military for humanitarian ends. These soldiers are going to Jamaica not to threaten anyone, but to rebuild homes and temporary shelters, and essential structures in areas that were devastated by Hurricane Melissa. This mission speaks a language that is the opposite of war. It is the language of repair. And that is where the deeper meaning begins to take shape. The fact that a military unit is being deployed for humanitarian tasks carries enormous symbolic weight. It is Ghana saying that Africa can now project organized help across the Atlantic, just as other powerful nations have sent organized help or organized forces into Africa for generations. Even though the core mission is humanitarian, the message surrounding it holds a quiet geopolitical truth. Africa is no longer only a receiver. Africa is becoming a giver. And to understand why this moment became possible, we must step into the destruction left behind by Hurricane Melissa. This storm did not act like a normal storm. It tore through Jamaica with frightening strength and destroyed homes and buildings that had stood for decades. Half of the country's 14 parishes were severely affected. Entire regions had to begin again, almost from zero. lives were lost. Families were displaced. Roads vanished under floodwaters or were ripped apart by fallen trees and broken earth. The economic losses reached billions, and the human losses could not even be measured in numbers. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. Jamaica is strong, but it is a small island state with limited capacity. A disaster of this scale created needs that could not be met by domestic resources alone. Prime Minister Andrew Holness did not try to hide the scale of the tragedy. He explained publicly that Jamaica could not rebuild without help. That honesty opened a door that normally remains closed. In similar situations, small nations often receive help from Western powers first. However, this time something different happened. Holness placed a personal call to President John Dramani Mahama of Ghana. He asked not only for funds, but for skilled people. He asked for experts who know how to build shelters and reconnect damaged communities. He asked for the kind of assistance that can only come from a country that understands engineering and reconstruction at a deep level. This direct request changed the direction of global expectations. A Caribbean leader reached Africa before reaching Europe or North America. That single decision turned an idea that Pan-African thinkers have spoken about for generations into a living action. Africa and the Caribbean were now communicating directly as equal partners. Ghana responded with precision rather than symbolism. The 48th Engineers Regiment is one of the most effective units in Ghana's armed forces. Its members combine the skills of civil engineers with the discipline of military organization. They have worked in environments shaped by war and natural disaster. They are prepared to operate in places where roads are broken, buildings are unstable, and communities are struggling to survive. In Jamaica, they will help rebuild homes, set up temporary shelters, and support the restoration of damaged infrastructure. Their work will be physical, technical, and measurable. Yet Ghana did not stop there. It also approved a humanitarian aid package valued at 10 million cedis that includes food, medicine, water storage tanks, clothing, mattresses, blankets, and essential supplies. The package is large enough that part of it will help Cuba, which was also struck by the storm, and part will help humanitarian workers in Sudan, who continue to face crisis after crisis. This mission reveals something important. It shows that an African nation can organize and finance a humanitarian operation that crosses oceans and touches more than one continent. This kind of capacity was once seen as the exclusive domain of Western powers. But now Africa is taking its turn. Ghana is proving that African nations are not simply trying to stabilize themselves. They are ready to take responsibility on the global stage. The timing and the location of the announcement deepen the meaning even more. President Mahama revealed the deployment at Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park during the 80th anniversary celebration of the Manchester Declaration. That moment was carefully chosen. The Fifth Pan-African Congress in Manchester shaped the political vision that guided many independence movements across Africa and the Caribbean. It brought African and Caribbean activists together and declared that colonial domination must end. Announcing the Jamaica mission on that anniversary sent a message that Ghana was not simply sending help. Ghana was fulfilling a historic responsibility that was born during the anti-colonial struggle. Mahama's words made it clear that this mission was more than logistics. He spoke of comrades and solidarity and the shared destiny of African people across the world. He spoke of Jamaica not as a foreign country, but as a place where descendants of West Africans live. People whose ancestors were taken from the shores of places like Ghana through violence and forced labor. The deployment, therefore, carries emotional and historical depth. It is not only reconstruction, it is a symbolic repair of a connection that history attempted to break. Ghana's foreign ministry supported this vision by informing the African Union and urging other African nations to send even small contributions, such as blankets or tarpaulins. This transforms the operation from a two-nation exchange into the beginning of a continental model. It encourages Africa to stand with its diaspora without waiting for approval from global powers. It strengthens the idea that when the Caribbean suffers, Africa responds as family. At this point, many observers began asking about the so-called secret operation. The phrase naturally creates curiosity because it implies hidden missions or classified intentions. However, the secrecy here does not come from military action. There is no evidence of intelligence work or warfare or covert strategy. The secret is simply that the world is not yet used to seeing African nations operate with this level of global agency. Western powers have normalized the act of sending soldiers abroad on humanitarian missions. Africa doing the same feels unfamiliar, and the unfamiliar often feels mysterious. The true secret is that African soft power is rising quietly, and the world is slowly waking up to it. This naturally raises another question. How does the United States react to an African military presence in the Caribbean? The Caribbean lies close to the United States in both geography and influence. Washington always watches developments in that region with attention. Yet Ghana's mission is purely humanitarian. The 48th Engineers Regiment is not establishing bases or conducting security patrols or engaging in any activity that challenges territorial control. They are rebuilding communities and will return home once the work is done. On the surface, this does not threaten American interests, yet it introduces a subtle shift. For the first time in recent memory, a major reconstruction mission in the Caribbean is being led by an African nation. The symbolism matters. It tells Caribbean nations that they have additional partners in times of crisis. It suggests that the region can look beyond historic allies. The deeper meaning becomes clearer when we consider the long story of the Atlantic. For centuries, African people were forced across this ocean in chains and treated as property. Now, an African state is crossing it voluntarily to help rebuild a nation that carries the blood of those same ancestors. This reversal carries tremendous emotional power. It turns tragedy into solidarity. It turns pain into purpose. It transforms the Atlantic from a route of suffering into a bridge of reconnection. Do you think Ghana did the right thing by sending its military engineers to Jamaica? Does this make you proud to see an African country helping a Caribbean nation? In the comment section, share your thoughts on the formation of an alliance of all countries with Black populations, which allows these countries to cooperate and look after each other. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.